Ms. Amber Lewis stood at the front of her classroom, gazing out at the sea of young faces in front of her. The bell had just rung, signaling the end of the school day, but none of the students were moving. It was one of those rare moments when everyone seemed to want to stay and soak in just a little more time with her. The school year was almost over, and for the seniors sitting in her English literature class, their time in high school was quickly coming to an end. Amber had taught in the same small rural town for over a decade. She loved her job, loved the students, and especially loved being a part of their journey toward adulthood. The school wasn't large, just a few hundred students, but it was the heart of the community. Everyone knew each other, and there was a deep sense of connection between the students, their families, and the teachers. But this year had been different. The school administration had become more focused on statistics, test scores, college acceptances, and scholarships. Principal Johnson had been clear in faculty meetings. The school needed to show improvement in these areas, and every teacher was expected to focus on measurable results. Amber had never been the kind of teacher who taught just for the test. Her classroom was a place where students could express themselves, be creative, and feel safe. She believed in nurturing their potential beyond academics, showing them that they were worth more than a grade on a paper. But lately, she had begun to wonder if she was doing enough. Some of her colleagues, and even the principal, thought her approach was too soft. They saw her focus on emotional well-being as a distraction from preparing students for the real world. And with graduation approaching, she couldn't help but worry whether she had truly made the impact she hoped to make. As she dismissed her students with a warm smile and a wave, she couldn't shake the feeling of uncertainty gnawing at her. Was she really helping them in the way they needed? Amber spent the next few weeks pouring her heart into every lesson, every conversation, every note of encouragement she wrote in her students' journals. She stayed late after school to help those who were struggling, offering tutoring sessions, and simply lending a listening ear to those who needed it. One of the students she spent extra time with was Liam, a quiet boy who often sat at the back of the classroom, sketching in his notebook. Liam had a natural talent for art, but his shyness held him back from sharing his work. Ms. Lewis encouraged him to enter his drawings in a national art competition, but Liam was hesitant. "I don't think I'm good enough," Liam mumbled one afternoon, not meeting her eyes. Amber knelt down beside his desk, her voice soft but firm. "Liam, your talent is incredible. You can't let fear stop you from trying. You've got to believe in yourself as much as I believe in you." Liam nodded, though he still looked unsure. She knew it would take time for him to find his confidence, but she was determined to help him see his own worth. Another student, Maria, had caught Amber's attention early in the year. Maria was bright and hardworking, but her home life was difficult. She came from a low-income family and worked part-time jobs to help support them. Despite the obstacles she faced, Maria had always shown incredible perseverance. One afternoon, Maria stayed after class to talk. "Ms. Lewis, I don't think I can apply for that scholarship you told me about," she said, wringing her hands nervously. "The essay question is really hard, and I don't know. What if I don't get it?" Amber sat beside her, offering a reassuring smile. "Maria, you have what it takes. You've been through so much, and your story is powerful. You just need to tell it. And even if it feels scary, remember, you won't know what's possible unless you try." Maria took a deep breath and nodded, though Amber could see the fear of failure still lurking behind her determined expression. And then there was Jason, the star athlete who, on the surface, seemed like he had everything figured out. But Amber had noticed the tension in his shoulders and the exhaustion in his eyes during class. One afternoon, Jason stayed behind after a particularly quiet lesson and finally opened up to her. "I don't know if I'm cut out for this," he admitted, running a hand through his hair. "Everyone expects me to go to college on a sports scholarship, but I'm not even sure I want that. It's like all this pressure is just crushing me." Amber's heart ached for him. She knew how much pressure some of these kids faced, from their families, their peers, even the school. "Jason, It's okay not to have everything figured out right now. You don't have to follow anyone's path but your own, and you certainly don't need to sacrifice your mental health for other people's expectations. Her words seemed to lift a weight off his shoulders, though he still looked uncertain about what the future held. Despite these conversations, Amber couldn't shake the feeling that, as graduation approached, some of her students were still struggling. Grace, a kind-hearted girl who had faced bullying in previous years, had found a safe space in Amber's classroom. But even Grace was still learning to stand up for herself, to let her voice be heard. Amber's days became a blur of grading papers, late-night calls with concerned parents, and staff meetings that seemed to emphasize the same message: scores, scholarships, college. She continued to believe in her students, but doubts began to creep in. Was she really doing enough to prepare them for what came next? Graduation day finally arrived. The high school gym was filled with the sounds of excited chatter, the rustling of caps and gowns, and the murmurs of proud parents. Amber stood at the back of the room, watching as her students filed in, one by one, taking their seats in the front rows. It was a bittersweet moment. Amber was proud of them, every single one of them, but the question still lingered. Had she made a real difference? Principal Johnson took the stage, delivering the usual speech about academic achievement, scholarships, and the bright futures that lay ahead for the graduating class. But something felt missing. To Amber, the true essence of these students wasn't in the numbers or accolades. It was in their personal growth, their resilience, their kindness. And yet, it seemed that no one else saw it that way. Just as the ceremony was winding down, something unexpected happened. One by one, Amber's students began to stand up. First it was Liam, then Maria, then Jason and Grace. Soon, the entire senior class was on their feet. They turned toward Amber, who was standing near the back of the gym, and asked her to come forward. Confused but touched, Amber made her way to the stage. The students handed her a large, handmade scrapbook with a title that made her heart swell: "The Teacher Who Believed in Us." Her hands shook as she opened the first page. Inside, each student had contributed a personal letter, photo, or piece of artwork, expressing how much her belief in them had meant. Liam had drawn a beautiful portrait of her, with a note saying, "Thank you for helping me see my worth. I didn't win the art competition, but I'm still going to pursue my dream. Because of you." Maria's letter brought tears to Amber's eyes. "Ms. Lewis, I got the scholarship. I couldn't have done it without you pushing me to believe in myself." Jason's note was heartfelt and raw. "I'm learning to let go of the pressure. I don't know what my future holds, but thanks to you, I'm not afraid of figuring it out." And Grace's message was simple but powerful. "Thank you for being my safe space. I found my voice because of you." Amber's vision blurred as tears filled her eyes. She had doubted herself so much, wondered if she was really making an impact. But standing here, reading these heartfelt messages, she realized something important. Success wasn't always about test scores or college acceptances. It was about the small victories, the growth, the belief that someone cared. She looked up at the crowd of students, tears streaming down her face, and for the first time in weeks, she felt at peace. They had given her the greatest gift, the knowledge that her belief in them had truly mattered. The ceremony ended with laughter, hugs, and celebration, but for Amber, it was more than just an end. It was a beginning. She walked out of the gym that day, her heart full, knowing that no matter what challenges came her way, she would continue to believe in her students, because that was what truly made a difference. Amber stood outside, watching her students head off to the next chapter of their lives. She smiled, knowing they were ready. And in her heart, she knew she was too.